All right, welcome everyone. Holding by the Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. Again, want to welcome one. That we're holding by Book of Leviticus Chapter 17. One thing I just mentioned, I guess before we start, I want to thank all the well wishers. Going to put a note on Facebook. Yeah, last night kind of crazy. Middle of the night, get all these sirens going off all over the country. Pretty amazing. I don't know, 400, 500 of these missiles sent, and they all got knocked down. Right, pretty miraculous. Yeah. By the Americans, by the English. You got Saudi Arabia. You got what do you call it? Jordan of all countries. Right. Also knocked these down. Besides Israel. Unbelievable miracles. I don't think I don't think there's any question. So yeah. So the Torah here says, still working our way through Leviticus chapter 17, verse 10. The Torah says, Ish ish mi beis Yisrael, min hager, agar b'soicham, sher yochal kol dam, sati, v'nasati panai b'nefesh, aocheles, es adam v'chorati yoisa mikerev amma. So again, the Torah says that whatever man there may be, in the house of Israel, or the strangers sojourning among you, that eats any blood, I will even set my face against them. That eats blood, I will cut them off, right, among his people. So we did speak quite a bit about who that is, who it's talking about, the fact that, Jewish people, their soul is different than everyone else. So as we said, the non-Jews are at a deficit, so to speak, as the Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, as well. And so then we mentioned that the person who eats blood, then it's like the soul of that animal enters the person, right? Again, someone will claim science has never proven it. Okay, so even if science hasn't proven it, very good. So what? Right? Doesn't matter what science is proven or not proven. We don't really care one way or another, as we always say. But it affects you, right? It affects the Jew. As we said, it doesn't affect the non-Jew. Right? Kuyakar says that anything that doesn't affect a non-Jew, right? A non-Jew is not going to do it. Right? He's not going to do it. So says the Or Chaim HaKadosh further. He says like this. He says, each thing a person does has an effect, right? And has an effect. It makes an effect on their soul. So if you do something, let's say positive, right? We'll make it easy. Does something positive according to Torah. Very good. Right? If it's positive, you strengthen the soul. If it's negative, you weaken the soul. Right? So that's how that's how the forces of good and evil are. In other words, the more you do that's beneficial, i.e., going in God's ways, and the better it is for your soul. If you do negative things, right? If you do negative things, you're going to debase the body, you're going to debase the soul. Now, over here, what are we talking about? Right? A Jew that eats blood. So he says, even though the soul is very high level over here, he said it makes an impression. Right? If it sure makes an impression, now, what does that mean? What does that mean in the vernacular? What it means is whatever I do, it has effect on me. Or God forbid, whatever's done to me, if it's not good, has an effect. Has an effect, meaning images that we've seen, I mentioned this many times, images that we've seen in our youth. Why are they still part of us? Right? People put out there kind of silly in a certain way. What's the most scary movie you ever saw? What gave you the most nightmares? Right? So I mentioned this movie, that movie, the other movie. Whatever it may be. And it has an effect. Right? It has an effect. Why does it have an effect? Because that image is still there. You haven't thought about it for years. Right? For years and years, you haven't thought about it. But now someone triggered a memory. And now the memory comes up. Yeah, it could be a bad memory, it could be a good memory. Right? But, so what does that mean in general? It means that whatever a person sees is part of you. It's now part of your DNA. Now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that thing's been buried. It can come out. It can be, again, something positive, something negative. Right? So what we see affects us. So the Torah says, when we read the Shema, right, the third paragraph of the Shema says, don't go after your heart, don't go after your eyes. Both applies to men and women equally, the Rambam says. So if that's true, I got to be careful what I see. I got to be careful, right? Not to go after my desire, not to go after my heart. Got to work hard. But let's say person failed. Let's say a person saw something they shouldn't see for whatever reason. Yeah, or something that had negative effect. Right? Scary movie can have a negative effect. Person can have nightmares. Right? So you say you grow older, come on. You're really gonna have nightmares of the same thing? Probably not, probably much less. Probably haven't thought about it very much. Right? But those images still are there. Right? Now that's a scary thing, no pun intended. Why? Because you got to work really, really hard to totally erase it. But seemingly, it doesn't get totally erased. Right? No total recall. It's not like your mind's totally erased here. Yeah? Yeah. In other words, it's there. It's still part of your psyche. Somewhere. Somewhere it's there. The only question is, will it manifest itself? Will it come up or will it not come up? If it's not that important, it can be buried for years. It can be buried forever, essentially. Right? Person doesn't need it. Or let's say, why would it come up? How is it possible it might come up? It gets triggered. A person gets triggered in different ways. Because they get triggered, what happens? These thoughts come up. It could be when you're under more stress. It could be, when you're not paying attention, when other things are going on, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. But one thing he's telling you, right, I think it's pretty clear, is that what we see makes an impression. Even if we see something we're forced to see. No one someone put a gun to our head and say, okay, you have to watch this. Whatever. Or it's something beyond, even better, it's beyond your control. So you'll say it's an onus. Okay. Beyond my control. Even if it's beyond my control, what do you want to tell me? You're going to say it's not my fault. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't want this to happen, but it happened. So guess what? It has an effect. It has an effect. And you think, October 7th, kids watch their parents get slaughtered. Then they got slaughtered or whatever happened. Let's say, these animals, that's what they are. They let the kid alive. Do you think that kid's going to need therapy for life? Therapy for life. Saw his parents gunned down, slaughtered in front of him, maybe in a totally gruesome way. And even if not, going to have an effect, huge effect. Now, the kid could ask. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't want this. Now, is it his choice? Not his choice, right? Seemingly not his choice at all. Why? Why is it not his choice? He signed up for it. As Mr. Berkey said, you're born against your will, you die against your will. Right? Kaufman would say in parentheses, you still have to live. Very good. But what we see as an effect. Now, forget about doing it, against your will. You can say, okay, that wasn't my intention. This thing came up, whatever it was. You didn't do it on purpose. Okay. Then you got to work hard, get this image out of your head. But if you did it to yourself, right, we'll make it very easy because we're our own worst enemy. You did it to yourself. Who do you have to blame? Nobody. Except yourself. You put yourself in that situation. You can say, okay, person really repents, really works hard. Can they uproot it? They can uproot it. They can uproot it. Now, the question is it fully uprooted? Or is it still there? Meaning, fully uprooted means it's obliterated. Means you'll never think about it again. It's gone, unless it comes up again. Or do we say, no, it's really there? It's dormant. It's taking a nice sleep. Right? It's dormant. Very good. So when's it going to come up? Maybe it won't come up in 10 years. Maybe it'll come up in 3 years. Maybe it'll come up later. Right? It could come up in any different way. Right? A lot of different ways here. But what's the point? What's the point over here? The point is, has an effect. That's the point. Absolutely has an effect. Right? So comes along the Or Chaim HaKadosh and he says, okay, let me explain it a different way. He says, this action itself. Okay, a person ate blood. But you ate blood. The Torah tells me because he ate blood, God's going to spiritually cut him off, right, from amongst his people. Now, he says, let me explain it a different way. Should eating blood really do that? I mean, being spiritually cut off means you have no connection. You have no connection to God. Again, it could mean also you'll die young, God forbid, your kids will die young, in your lifetime. Both things could happen. You don't have a portion of the world to come. All true. But he's saying like this. Why should it be that bad? Why should eating blood be that bad? So you tell me what we said before. You'll tell me very simple, because the blood is really the soul. It's like you're eating the soul of the animal. So you're ingesting the soul of the animal, and that's a negative effect. Even if science hasn't proven it. Okay, it's got a negative effect. But he's going in a different direction now. So he says, why would I think if you eat blood, it makes that big of an impression? It should be that forbidden. That what? That you lose your portion of the world to come. That you get spiritually cut off, just like if you ate leavened product on Passover. Willingly. You also get spiritually cut off. A number of things you get spiritually cut off for. Okay, but why should it be? Why in the world should that be? Eating blood is that bad? That you get spiritually cut off? So he says, what happens over here? He says the soul has made an impression here. Right? The soul can take it in. Can have a negative effect. Now, that's if you're talking about the animalistic soul. Very good. What about the higher level soul? There are other aspects of the soul. Higher level. Okay. It could be also makes an imprint. on the higher level of that soul. Even so, right? Again, different aspects of the soul. So even if you want to tell me it could have a negative effect on the highest level or higher levels of the soul that are higher than the nefesh behemoth, the animalistic soul. Because other parts of the soul on a higher level, very good. So, Dor Chaim HaKadosh says, can that be? Even if it makes an impression on the higher level of the soul, yeah, does that mean it should be cut off? Does that mean it should be spiritually cut off? If you want to tell me by the lower level, I can ask the question, right? You can also ask the question, but he says even on the higher level, even on the higher aspect, right? Now, what's the higher level of the soul do? The low level of the soul, right, connects the body to the soul. So again, nefesh behemoth, right? The lowest level, the animalistic soul, very good. What does the higher aspect of the soul do? The higher aspect of the soul, guess what? Makes me understand things at a higher level. Helps me draw closer to God on a higher level. Yeah. So he says that makes me wiser and helps me rise to greater spiritual levels. Then he says, even someone who's younger and someone who's older should also be spiritually cut off. Why make the distinction? Why make a distinction between an adult and a child? Right? Why make a distinction? Why should there be a distinction? Right? What's the answer? Because you tell me a young child doesn't have the same obligations as an adult. Never has the same obligations. You got to train a child. Right? Then they are bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, right? As a girl or as a boy, 13 a day or 12 in a day, right? Whatever it's going to be, what's going to happen? They're going to come into the covenant, and hopefully they're going to continue to do what they were doing before. Now it's all for real, even by them. Right? Why do I say it's all for real? Because what they're doing and what they're keeping up until this point, right? They're doing it because parents are educating them in that way, right? Again, we'll make it easy. Parents are educating them the right way. So right now it's practice. But obviously, they're going to be 12 and 13. They're going to continue, or they should continue. Yeah, they should continue. But a child is not obligated like an adult. A child, in many ways, cannot fulfill the obligation of an adult. If an adult, let's say, doesn't know how to make a blessing, can the child fulfill? Let's say grace after meals. Make it very easy. Very long after blessing. Okay. Can the child fulfill the obligation of the adult? The adult has an obligation according to the Torah, right? Say grace after meals after bread. A child, at best, is the Rabbanon. It's rabbinical. Can someone who's got a rabbinic obligation fulfill the obligation for someone who's got a Torah obligation? What's the answer? No. We say the same thing by a woman, right? There's a whole question, we mentioned this before. What is the obligation for a woman to say grace after meals? She should say it. She ate enough bread or a pita or whatever, right? She should say it. Now, what's her obligation? So the Gemara has a whole discussion. Some say it's rabbinical. Some say it's a Torah obligation. The Gemara goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Eventually comes out, it's not clear. It's not clear whether it's a Torah obligation or rabbinic obligation. Now, someone will ask me the $1 million question. We might have to answer later. What's the $1 million question? Who cares? It's rabbinical. It's not rabbinical. It comes from the Torah. Who cares? What's irrelevant to us? It'll be relevant. Right? Where could it be relevant? It can be relevant in this case. She washed her hands for bread, ate enough bread. Right? He washed his hands, ate enough bread. Very good. He's obligated at a Torah level. She's not. He can't say the blessing. So what do? Can she fulfill his obligation if he answers Amen, right, to her blessing, and she has intention, he has intention? Technically, it should work, right? But this is the problem. It's a problem because they don't have the same level of obligation. That's the point. They don't have the same level of obligation. Now, a child also, up until the age of bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, same thing. Except there's one caveat. The caveat is that the parent, hopefully, is educating the child to go in the right path. So that child who's Jewish, has different obligations. He's got a different soul than a non-Jew. Even a non-Jew is an adult. Doesn't matter. That non-Jew, unless they convert, they get the other parts of the soul. The child is at a different level. Even if he's a lower level in understanding, that doesn't matter. His soul makeup is different. Right? His soul makeup is different. So here, the Or Chaim HaKadosh says, therefore, what's the purpose of the higher soul, higher aspect of the soul? Again, make it wise. Make it wise in Torah. Draw closer to God. Not only that, it has the ability from this verse. It has the ability from this verse to what? To tell you who it's coming to include. Who is it including over here? What about converts? We'll get to converts. I don't know if we'll get to them today. We'll see. Different levels here, right? But essentially, there are a lot of different cases that it might include over here. But then the Or Chaim HaKadosh says, a young child and an adult, if they eat blood, they're liable. Right? They're liable to be spiritually cut off. Now, based on that, there's an obvious question. Yeah. What's the obvious question? Obvious question is, I understand by the adult. Okay. I can understand by the adult. He's liable. Because the Torah says you ate blood. So he's going to get spiritually cut off unless he repents. Very good. So what happens? What happens over here? What happened by the child? Why is the child liable to be spiritually cut off? Right? Doesn't make so much sense over here. So he says a child and adults are going to be spiritually cut off if they eat blood because they're different levels. They're a different level. There are different ways, we said before. What does the Torah here say? All right, we'll go back. It says, ish, mi beis Yisrael. Right? Translated as, and whatsoever man, bad translation, but, every single man, ish, every single man of the house of Israel. Okay. Now, we'll be biblical, we'll be biblical, deciphers over here. When it says ish, when it says man, who's it talking about? It's only talking about men? Maybe it's talking about women. Maybe it's coming to include women. Maybe it's coming to include converts. If they're Jews, why include converts? Good question. Because they're also Jews. Yeah. Maybe it's coming to include children. Even children. Right? So there are different ways to look at it over here. In other words, we're going to say, ish. Okay. Right? Every single man. Doesn't include women. No. Doesn't tell me. Doesn't include children. Doesn't tell me. Now, I could answer. I could say, shouldn't include children. Children are liable. It's not a good thing for them to do, but they're not liable. Shouldn't affect them. Comes along. The Or Chaim HaKadosh, if you only heard this today, it'd be worth it. Comes along the Or Chaim HaKadosh over here, and he says, even by a child is going to be affected. $1.5 million question. What are you talking about? When's the child ever affected here? Child doesn't have the same obligation. At very best, the parent has to teach them and separate themselves from doing something forbidden, they can't eat blood. They do other things. Okay. Right, but that's the mitzvah of chinuch. That's only educational. Right, but the parent has an obligation to separate him. Right, separate the child from doing something forbidden. Okay. But if the child, according to the Torah, hasn't come of age, he should never get spiritually cut off. He did something wrong. Okay. But is he punishable? This is what we always say. He's not punishable. Doesn't mean he can do whatever he wants. Right? Let's say, a kid's playing ball and, kid hits a ball right through someone's window. Does the kid have to pay? He's exempt. If he causes damage, is he exempt? Yeah. Right? But the halacha is the parent should have to pay. Because you got to take responsibility. The kid's only exempt by technicality. What's the technicality? They're a kid. They're underage. You got to say they don't have money to pay, whatever, so the parent should pay. For sure the parent should pay. Yeah, but the kid's not liable, technically. Technical issue. You're not liable. It comes on the Orchaim HaKadosh and says no. He says no. He said even the kid's liable. Why is the kid liable? He ate blood, I get it. Right? Kid ate something not kosher. Is it bad for him? Sure. Jewish kid, sure. He does a great job as in public. He's going to get the death penalty at that point. He's a kid. Not a good thing that they did. You're not liable for death penalty yet. He's a kid. Can't punish him for that. Punish him in other ways, but not like that. Says the Orchaim HaKadosh, big novelty here, big chiddush over here. He says a katan and a gadol, a young child, or a child and an adult. Gadol over here means an adult over the age of bar mitzvah, doesn't matter what age. They get spiritually cut off for eating blood. You can stop right there. What are you talking about? Again, an adult, I understand. An adult, I get it. Child? How can a child be liable? Child can't be liable. So the parent, as now, gets a little bit complicated. Because if you're going to tell me the parent has an obligation to educate them, very good. Parent's not doing a good job, but, you can't force a child, right? You can't tie them down, this and that, what they're going to eat. And this and that, try and educate them the best you can. Okay, if they choose to eat it, whatever, okay. But to tell me they're going to get spiritually cut off for what they did, it's not a good thing they did, no question. Everyone agrees. They shouldn't eat blood. They shouldn't eat pig. They shouldn't eat, shouldn't eat other things. Very good. Yeah, does that mean they get spiritually cut off when it's forbidden? They ate 11 product on purpose on Passover. 8-year-old kid. You going to tell me who's the portion of the world to come? His parents should die young and he should die young and, God forbid and all that. He's a child. So you say, well, maybe it depends on the severity of what they've done. Oh, maybe. Maybe we'll entertain that. Yeah. Could be. If they did something wrong. Right? And it's something very severe. They're liable. I just saw a story earlier. Well, not today, maybe a few days back. Whatever. A child killed somebody, killed another kid. Now, can you charge that child with manslaughter? No. They're underage. They'll be in, in a juvenile place and this and that. But you can't get it for manslaughter. Technicality. Why not? Because the kid's 13 years old. Kid 14 years old, underage. If it was 18, 19, different issue. Yeah, different issue. Because then you can get him. He's an adult. But if he's not an adult, what can you do? What are you going to say? Come on, he murdered someone. Cold blood. Cold blood. There's a story many years ago happened in Massachusetts, somewhere. Massachusetts, these kids were they watched the movie 1,000 Faces of Death. Yeah. Whatever, it's a famous movie, anyone knows about it, whatever, different ways a person could die. Yeah. So they tried it out. These kids tried it out on one of the classmates. Doesn't like his classmate too much, or whatever. They wanted to feel like death, what death was. Pretty unbelievable influence of a movie here. Yeah, but we're not even going to go there. That's a whole nother discussion. But these kids killed this kid. Literally, they killed him. Right now, isn't murder one of the Noahide laws? Murder is one of the Noahide laws. Now, do you get death penalty? Yeah, for a non-Jew, you get death penalty. For a Jew, difference of opinion whether you get the death penalty or not. But regardless, by a non-Jew, you get death penalty. What if the non-Jew is underage? You going to give him the death penalty? You're not going to give him the death penalty necessarily. Right? It could be that, if a person saw, a non-Jew bowing to an idol or kill someone, no, you don't need justice. You kill him right there. Right? If he's an adult, nothing to talk about. You can shoot him right there. Kill him right there. Right? Because it's going against one of the universal laws. You don't have to warn him. Right? These things are obvious. Question is, what if a child did? Willingly. Now, wouldn't you say, okay, you're going to set up law courts? Non-Jews have to have law courts, right? No, I have to have law courts. Very good. So what level is this child guilty? So again, he's a child. You're not going to let him do very much. Leave him, in the juvenile facility or whatever, right? But you can't get him for manslaughter. Can't kill him because he's a child. Technicality. Now, do you want, a kid like this running around on the streets? No. But these kids, the way the story goes, if I remember correctly, the way the story goes is that they didn't have a criminal record. None of these kids had a criminal record. They watched the movie and that's what they did. They went out and murdered someone. Then people, writing all these articles and saying, look at the power of theater, look at what movies can do. Yeah, it can have a negative effect, a seriously negative effect on people. Now, this kid's in a juvenile place. Is he going to get rehabilitated? Is he going to become after this incident? Is this person going to be an upstanding member of society later if they ever let him out? And most people would say, person goes to jail, they come out worse. Probably. They went on to be better criminals or whatever. Yeah. Most likely. Most likely. But even such a heinous thing, even such a terrible thing, guess what? Can you get him for death penalty? As a Noahide. Right? He's got to be an adult. According to the Torah, he's got to be an adult. Yeah. What if make it a little more interesting, what if this kid's actually going to do it? Or he's going to do something else. He's going to, I don't know. We talked about this before. A person's going to steal. They're going to try and loot your store. Right? You got a sign on the door, on the window, anyone who trespasses, liable for death. Right? So the governor of Florida, right, after COVID, or during COVID when people were running around doing all kinds of things, he said, you have a right to defend your property. Very good. Yeah. Now the question is, brought this up during that time. Question is, if you put a sign on the door or on the window, everybody sees it, you know what they're coming to do. They're coming to loot your store. Pretty clear. Got a whole mob there. You warn them. Now, the governor of Florida says you got a right to defend your property. Okay. Before they walk in the door, very interesting question. Before they walk in the door, can you start picking them off with your gun? They haven't walked in the door. They haven't done anything. Right? They have not done anything. They are lining up. They're ready to destroy this store. That's what they're ready to do. Pretty clear according to everybody. Even if they don't say it, that's what they're there for. Yeah. So some of these stores, like a shoe store, that was looted. I see people coming out with like tons of sneakers. Like, what are you gonna do with all these sneakers? Probably not even your size. Like, what are you gonna do with them? Okay, whatever. Won't ask questions on that. But they're going in to trash the place. Even without them saying anything, do you have the right to pick them off before they come in? Now, normally we say, by the no hide laws, I don't have to warn them. Because if they steal, liable for death penalty, very good. So if they're liable for death penalty, can I peg them off if I put a sign up? That's the question. Very interesting question. If they step foot in the store, so the governor of Florida says, peg them off. That's their death penalty. They know it. They're walking in the door. You warn them. You're going to say they can't read. You take a megaphone, right? Even if they can't read, they're all illiterate. Okay, very good. Right? Make it a little more interesting. You take out a megaphone and say, anyone who steps past this is what the sign says. You step past this line, I'm going to shoot your head off. You warn them. You step foot in this place, I'm going to shoot you. That's enough warning. If they can't read it, use a megaphone. Okay. So you use the megaphone. That person steps off, steps across the floor, boom, shoots him, kills him. Governor of Florida says, no problem, you have absolute right. Then he starts picking, someone breaks a window, right? Someone breaks the storefront window. They haven't entered yet. Cause damage. Not liable for death penalty yet. He starts pegging them off one after another. Shoots 20 people. Is he liable? It's a good question. Because if you tell me they got to actually step into the place, they didn't. If you tell me, on the other hand, they got the answer ready because they saw the sign or they heard from the megaphone, if you do this, you're in trouble, and I'm going to shoot your head off, they take their chances. They wrote their own death sentence. Yeah. And the governor of Florida will back you. And he'll say that's not suicide. That's not murder. Or you tell me you can't do that. They actually have to step foot in your property. Yeah. Now, what happens if some of these people are children? Make it a drop more interesting. What if they're children? If they're children, maybe you tell me they're not liable, right? Maybe you tell me even if they step forward, it has to be an adult who's liable, not a child. Maybe you tell me it's not a child. It's only going to be an adult. Oh, but the child's doing the same thing. Premeditated. They want some good pair of sneakers, so they're going to jump in. Okay. But they're not liable here. Right? By technicality, they're not of age. Or do we say that doesn't matter? Right? Do we say that you can't kill him? Right? Because, okay, he's stealing. That's true. But he's not really guilty. As a child, I could say that. I could definitely say that. Or do you tell me a child's guilty because he's guilty? Not allowed to steal. It's a basic thing. He's been taught over and over and over again. You're not allowed to take what doesn't belong to you. So he's giving up his own life, his choice. He's forfeiting his life. Yeah. But if he's not really guilty, you can't shoot him. Right? Interesting question. So comes the one Or Chaim HaKadosh here, and he says an adult and a child are both going to be spiritually cut off for eating blood. At face value, you're going to say a lot of sense it doesn't make. Well, a child? Why are you going to say he's going to get spiritually cut off? What did we just say? Right, let's rewind the video here. What did we just say? We just said that when a person does something, it makes an impression on their soul. And a Jewish soul has much higher components than just the animalistic parts. So therefore, even if a child ate blood, and we're going to say that it's going to affect a person, even if science hasn't proven it, it's also going to affect the child. And because even though he's really not liable technically, since it's going to affect him, he's got a higher level of the soul. What's it going to do? He's going to get spiritually cut off, even though he really shouldn't be liable. But that's the reason, says Or Chaim HaKadosh over here. That's the whole point, is that it affects the soul. It makes a rosham. It makes an impression. Once it makes an impression, whether you're young or older, right, it doesn't matter. Somebody we asked the question before about being, you are what you eat. What if a person ate it intentionally? Not intentionally. Sorry, not intentionally. If a person ate it not intentionally, you'll say, well, it shouldn't affect them. They ate something, they thought it was, I don't know, they thought it was salmon. And the reality was it was shrimp, right? Or something else, right? Some other seafood. It was, I don't know, they mixed it up for clams. I don't know how they did that. They mixed it up. Okay. They didn't have intention to eat it. Very good. Right? So now, if we really hold, regardless of whether science has proven it, that it affects the soul, if we really hold that, but a person did it non-intentionally, very good, does it affect them? So you tell me, did it by accident. Why should it affect them? Yeah. Or do you tell me that the fact that they did it affects them? Doesn't matter whether they did it by accident or not. It affects them, period. Has an effect. Very good. So I brought down some of the commentaries say exactly that. It doesn't matter. You did it by accident. Okay. Yeah, we'll cut you a little bit of slack. You can repent, but it affects you. It has an effect. Somewhere has an effect. Even if you did it by accident. So therefore, you got to be careful. Right? You got to be careful, even if you did it by accident. So comes on the Or Chaim HaKadosh says, even by child, even by an adult, can be spiritually cut off from eating blood. How do I know? He went into this whole thing about the higher level, lower level of the soul, but he says the fact that it says ish says every single person, every single man, technically. He says we learn out different things between someone who's younger, someone who's older from all this, and it has all kinds of different ramifications. Yeah, there are different levels. The fact that there are different levels, very good. There are different levels, but it's going to affect in a different way, right? So this verse, the very beginning, is going to tell you who it includes, who it doesn't include. Yeah, there are a lot of a bunch of questions here. Let's see. Someone here says, I heard that you can use Yetzirah to serve Hashem. So how does that work? So I'll give one example. If a person, let's say, has an evil inclination to be jealous of somebody, right? Being jealous is never good, right? Usually it's never good. But it can be used in the right way. How can it be used in the right way? Something like that, if a person, let's say, is jealous of somebody's knowledge, right? Let's say they're jealous of their knowledge. Now, that could break them and say, oh, I'll never reach that. Impossible for me to ever reach that. Different things, okay. And they get broken by it. Or it gives them the impetus, it gives them the oomph, so to speak, in order to want to learn even more. To want to even, spend more time learning because they want to have that knowledge. They want to have that level of knowledge. So the evil inclination, what does the evil inclination say? Be jealous. Be jealous of this person. Being jealous is a negative connotation here. Being jealous over here means you don't like the person. You don't want to be like the person per se, right? But essentially, you're jealous of who they are. You're jealous of what they represent, let's say. It comes, so this idea that, yeah, you could be jealous, but, in a good way, that it lights a fire underneath you. and you work that much harder to want to reach that level. Let's say, in certain religious communities, like every block has different synagogue. Yeah. A synagogue here, a synagogue there, different rabbis, this, that. You're going to say, why don't you just all join together? Each one has has different things to give. So you say, Marbi Torah, Marbi Kina, right? Kina Soifrid. Kina Soifrid means you're jealous in a good way. In a good way. So a person could use their inclination might take you the other way. It might say to hate them, despise them, other things, whatever it may be, but it could be used in a good way. Right? That's one example. Someone asked, morning blessing, it is said, compel our evil inclination to subservient to you. What does it mean? Yeah, the evil inclination, what's the purpose of evil inclination? In general, to test us. Right? We say every day in the morning, we say, don't let us be tested. Don't let us come to temptation. Don't let us come to, to have these tests, because a lot of times these tests we fail. So better not to be tested. What's the obvious question? The obvious question is, if I don't have tests, right? If I don't have tests, how am I going to grow spiritually? I won't grow. Impossible to grow. Right? So the purpose of the evil inclination, is to get us to sin. The purpose of the evil inclination is that we should overcome what we're going through. We should be able to rise to the occasion, not to give in to the evil inclination. Well, the question is, okay, how do we compel it? It means you beat it, right? It means there's no effect on you. That the evil inclination should go by the wayside. The evil inclination shouldn't have a connection to me. The evil inclination should be lower than dust to me. Now, that's easier said than done. Because you got to remember, the evil inclination never stops. The evil inclination continues and continues and continues, right? Never wants to stop, right? So for us, or better, for the evil inclination to be subservient to you, it means it has no control. It means no matter what it does, it has no control, right? It's going to bow to you because you're not giving into it, so to speak. But that doesn't mean, keep in mind, even if you beat it today, it comes back tomorrow even stronger. It comes back in ways you didn't think of. So you got to always think of ways to beat the evil inclination. But what we want to do is make it useless. Make it have no effect on us. Not to make us jealous in any way, right? Not to make us look at what other people do. We don't care what other people do. We're going to worry about ourselves. Be the best we can be, right? But the evil inclination never rests. Because the evil inclination never rests, it means you always got to be on guard. So our goal is, we want to beat it. We want to make the evil inclination subservient to us. That's what we want. That's what I would say. Simple explanation on that. Someone here asks, can there be a situation, the child isn't necessarily guilty, but the shooter would fall under the purview of pikuach nefesh? You don't necessarily have to kill him. You could injure him, right? You could definitely injure him. You could definitely injure him. But the question is, okay, if he's not guilty, now the question of pikuach nefesh, you do anything to save a life. That's true, right? That 100% is true. The issue, though, is this pikuach nefesh? They're coming to loot your store. Now, it's not, right? We'll make it easy. They're not coming to kill you, right? They are definitely not coming to kill you. If they're coming to kill you, you do whatever you can to save your life, right? That I don't think there's any question. The question over here is, is that if they loot your store, they're going to ruin you. But you say, well, that also is pikuach nefesh. That is saving your life. Yeah. Right? That very well could be saving your life. Yeah. So even though the kid is a child, right? Even if the kid is a child, then you are actually saving your own life. Now, how many people, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I don't know what the statistics are, but imagine during that summer when people were just looting stores left and right. Imagine if people's, businesses survived COVID, right? Many went under. Understandable. Everything was shut down. Whatever. How long can a person, how long can their business survive? So a lot of businesses went under, right? Understandable. Now, if that's the case, what about the business that survived? Only, it's ironic. I shouldn't laugh, right? That's not a laughing thing here, but it's kind of ironic that there are some people that survived COVID miraculously. Yeah, survived miraculously, but then their store got looted, so they lost other ways. It's kind of God's irony. It's like, a person let down their guard. They're like, wow, I beat COVID. And God says, no, you didn't actually. I gave you an opportunity to acknowledge me. You didn't acknowledge me? Okay. You survived COVID, but you lost the war. You lost the war. They looted your place, and that's it. You lost. It's over. As we say in Boston, it's over. Right? It's over. Finished. Right? So now, if the child would harm you, yeah, that's pikuach nefesh for sure. I thought you were asking a little bit different. If the child, is coming to physically harm you, yeah, that for sure is nothing to harm you. You're allowed to defend yourself. Now, if you can injure the child or anybody without killing them, it's obviously better, right? But if you kill them, you kill them, right? You're saving your own life. If they come to steal, now that's not a direct threat to your life. That's not where I can just shoot them because I feel my life is threatened. Now, a person can turn around and say, if they loot my store, my life is threatened because I got no way, to pay this back. There were stories of people that, that lost their shirts, no pun intended. They lost their business, couldn't make payments, right? Had difficulty making payments that they owed. They committed suicide because, they couldn't take the pressure. Couldn't take the pressure. Never had such a situation. So in that case, a person could say, if they ruin my store and they clean out most of the merchandise, I don't have money to replace it. I don't know how many people have all this money in their back pocket to relinquish this. Insurance not going to cover all of it, right? They're going to take a huge loss. They have to rebuy inventory, fix up the store, whatever it is. It might be worth it not to do anything. Yeah, so they lose everything. Person never been in such a situation. It's traumatic. Totally traumatic. So a person could say, wow, if this happens, this is going to ruin me financially. And if this ruins me financially and I can't pay my bills and I have creditors running after me, life isn't worth living. Now, we're not being over dramatic here. This is something people have never had such an issue with. And then they get into a position where they lost everything and they can't pay it back. They have no way to pay it back. Bankruptcy is not going to help over here. Now, could that put a person in, financial distress? Yes. Could have pushed them over the edge? Yes. Could. Not what God wants, could push them over the edge. Now, if a person knows for themselves that very well could be, so for them, that's pikuach nefesh. That's saving their own life. Otherwise, they know for sure they would take their own life. Now, again, this can't be each case has to be judged by itself, right? But if this person knows clear, at the end of the day, a person may not do it, but if this person knows beyond the shadow of a doubt, right? We'll try and make it easier. If he knows beyond the shadow of a doubt this is gonna bring him to depression, he's gonna lose all faith in the world and this and that, and he will pull the trigger on himself, that's pikuach nefesh. If it's a doubt, he's just talking a good game, but he would never do it or whatever, right? I don't know if that's that's pikuach nefesh. Could it lead to pikuach nefesh? Yeah, he could be ruined. Anyone has ever had a business and lost it or whatever? Yeah, they did what they could, and now they fall flat in their face. They have to declare bankruptcy, you get help from people, this and that. They don't want them. It's embarrassing. Yeah, leads to depression and worse. They made this wrong decision or that wrong decision, or were guilty by association and ruined the whole company and brought everything down. Right? That could destroy a person. That could, their ego goes way down for sure. If they had a big ego at that point, they just got slaughtered, right? In real time. And now, let's say the only way to save themselves, they got to fire all these people. They don't want to do that either. But, you got no choice. You got no choice. So, could that lead to drastic things? Yeah. Will it? Oh, that's a different issue. That's a very different issue. If people around this person knew he's going down, 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 and then that's what he does, that could, maybe that would have been pikuach nefesh. Depends. Right? I can't say straight out. It depends. Depends on the issue. Right? It definitely depends. It depends on the issue. So the question is, if the child will harm you by their actions, so it depends how far it goes. It depends. Again, even if the child did it, is the child liable, right? Again, we'll ask the question, is the child liable? So you'll say the parents have to pay for what the child did. Technically, the child's not liable. Did the child transgress? Yeah, on a rabbinic level, it transgressed. No question. No question. But is that a threat to the owner? Could very well be. Could very well be. Right? So if it's a threat to the owner, yeah, maybe he could kill him. Right? Maybe it wouldn't be a transgression. It shouldn't be a transgression. Right? Over here, because he's a threat. He's a legitimate threat. So the question is how far it goes, right? That is really the question. Is how far that would go. But if it's seen as a threat, even if it's a child, a person can easily claim that. Should be able to easily claim that. Say this kid could have, with these other people, could have looted my store, and that's what he was going to do. 100%. He would have taken whatever he could take. That's a threat. Technically, he's a kid. You're right. He's a kid. The adults, deserve death penalty. So the kid's going to be a question. Right? And even if the owner killed the kid, is he liable? I don't know. I don't know if he'd be liable here. If we're looking at it's considered a threat to himself, to his livelihood, to his well-being, then that's pikuach nefesh. Then he's got an obligation over here for himself to protect himself. If it's not, if it's causing him damage, but not necessarily that far, then we, probably say no. You can only injure him. What if you killed him? Good question. Yeah, that would be the question. Someone asks, could you use your desires to serve Hashem? Why not? Again, it depends as well. Depends what it is. It depends what the effect is. Right? Could someone use their desires in a negative way? Sure. Could. Right? Very well could. If a person for sure is going to use it, is going to use it in the right way. Right? Why not? Right? But again, if you could do that, if it was possible, let's say, if it was possible to do such a thing and use it in the right way, why not? Give an example. We're gonna, we'll keep this clean. But a person's married, right? So they're together with their spouse when, obviously when it's permissible, right? Can a person use those desires for good? Sure. That's what they're given for. Yeah, they're not given to be abused like the rest of the world does, right? But they're given to be used, in a special way. If it's not used that way, okay, it gets abused, right? It gets abused in many ways. So, other desires as well, if it can be used for good. Now, the question is, what's this desire, right? Are we looking at it as something that is always bad and sometimes it's used for good? Or maybe you'll tell me it's something that can be used for good or for bad. Now, what would be the problem? What would be the problem over here? The problem is that if it can be used for both, maybe we'll say if it can be used for both, then what's my issue? Maybe use it for the wrong thing. Even though you had intention to use it for the right thing. Very good. Right? Even if you had intention to use it for the right thing. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful. It depends what it is. It depends. It depends what the effect is going to be. So a person will say, I'm not sure what the effect is going to be. Right? Maybe we don't know. Maybe essentially we don't know what the effect is going to be. Okay. Now, if what they're using is potentially playing with fire, even if there's a chance they could use it for good, should they? Let's ask like that. Should they use it for good? And what's the answer? You're taking a chance. 100% you're taking a chance. If you tell me 100% it's going to be good, and let's say it is, okay, then you're using it for the right purpose. If you have a doubt and something negative can come about, then yeah, then you got to be careful. Someone there mentions, let's figure if you could break Shabbos for the sake of harm to business. That'd be the question, right? That would be the question. That would probably, if you couldn't get non-Jews to do it, and this is the only way you can save your business, yeah, you'd probably be allowed to. Right? Don't hold me to that, but you'd probably be allowed to. Right? I would think it shouldn't be, it's saving your life. Essentially saving your life. Right? The other side would be, no, if you're gonna lose it, you're gonna lose it. So it doesn't matter what happens. But you gotta put your best foot forward. This could happen. And what did some people do? They locked their store shut. So no one could get in. I put metal grates down, whatever, people couldn't get in. That was it. Other people didn't have that luxury. Got glass windows outside, good luck. Smashed them and did whatever they did. Right? But let's say that's all you had. Right? So I would think, again, don't hold me to this, but I would think you have a right to defend it, even on Shabbos. That'd be considered pikuach nefesh. Because then they could totally ruin you. If you get non-Jews to do it, very good. If you can't, right, you might have to do it yourself. Or you might have to be there yourself anyway. Are we the children of Abraham? Are we the children of Abraham? So the Torah says that Abraham is the father of all nations. If Abraham's the father of all nations, yeah. Abraham's the father of all nations. Aren't we all related to Abraham? We're all related to Abraham, aren't we? The Jews go back to Abraham. Non-Jews go back to Abraham. Right? So there was a covenant made between God and Abraham, the covenant of the parts. That Abraham gave over to Isaac. Isaac gave over to Jacob, got solidified at Mount Sinai. Right? So are we all students of Abraham? Absolutely. Read the book, The Way of God. Right? Derech Hashem. Abraham is the source. He's the source. Everyone else is branches. You tell me, but Abraham didn't get the Torah yet. Very good. The Gemara says Abraham kept the Torah before it was given. Whatever that means. But he wasn't a Jew. And people make the mistake and say, Avram Ivri, Abraham the Jew. No. wasn't Jewish yet. Right? Couldn't be Jewish till Mount Sinai. Very good. Abraham Ivri means he's on one side of the world, and everyone else is on the other side. But are we all related? Right? Are we all related? Are we the children of Abraham? Was he the first Jew? No, it wasn't the first Jew. Was not the first Jew. Right? That is true. That's true. Jewish people became Jewish at Mount Sinai. Do we have a connection to Abraham? Absolutely. Everybody has a connection to him. Non-Jews also. It's father of all nations. Can I brush my teeth on Shabbos? If not brushing, that makes me feel uncomfortable. It depends. Can't use toothpaste. Toothpaste forbidden. Smearing. So they have liquid toothpaste. Toothpaste that doesn't smear. It does a similar thing. Right? So can you brush your teeth with liquid toothpaste? Yes. What if brushing your teeth causes your gums to bleed? And every time you brush your teeth, your gums are going to bleed. That's a problem. Could use mouthwash also. Yeah. But let's say you brush your teeth the normal way. Not going to, your gums are not going to bleed. Very good. So therefore, be okay. If you're using liquid toothpaste. If you're using regular toothpaste, i.e. toothpaste that smears, right, which is regular toothpaste, that would be forbidden. That would be forbidden. What kind of toothpaste? Okay. All right. Any other questions here? Yeah, one of the things also, if you're going to get toothpaste for Passover, you're going to make sure it's kosher Passover. Right? It should say kosher Passover. You're going to say what's non-kosher about toothpaste? If there's toothpaste that has flavors. But if it's regular toothpaste, it should be fine in general. If it's got flavors, got an issue. Right? For sure, I have an issue. Well, that's has special certification for Passover. But if it's regular toothpaste, then it should not be a issue. One thing I will mention. Someone here asks, just brings up another issue, is that can I brush my teeth on Shabbos? Not brushing them makes me feel uncomfortable. Now, you're asking about toothpaste. Okay. What are other things that might make you feel uncomfortable? Person walks outside, let's say they're walking out with their hats. Let's say there's an Erev, we'll make it easy, right? Or it doesn't really matter, right? He's wearing his hats. Wearing a black hat. Well, let's say. Wind comes along, blows it off his head. Very good. Time he catches up with it. Doesn't look exactly the same. Or let's say that their hat got a little bit bent out of shape. So it happened to Chazon Ish of Avram Mishai Karol, it's a blessed memory. And he felt putting it back into shape was forbidden because of boina, of literally a building, right? You're reconstructing it, essentially. Others disagree. They said you can fix it. It's not the same thing. Now, let's say we go like the Chazon Ish. Yeah. Now, students ask them, like, it's not honorable. It's not honorable for the Chazon Ish, to walk around with a smushed hat. What did the Chazon Ish say? He said it is honorable because God doesn't want me to fix it. That makes it honorable. Right? That makes it honorable. Now, question over here is, I'm not saying that's your intention, but I just want to point out, Not brushing them makes me feel uncomfortable. Now, let's say there's no kosher toothpaste to use. Right? Let's say there's no liquid toothpaste. So what do people do before liquid toothpaste? Or before mouthwash? We'll make it even better. No mouthwash. Mouthwash is okay. No liquid toothpaste. So what do people do? I'll tell you what they did. They didn't brush their teeth, their breath smelled. Okay? So someone can say, I'm a realist in this. It really bothers me. So certain things that really bother you. Dishes. Or something like dishes left in the sink. Afraid they're going to get bugs. Whatever it may be. So they're allowed to wash dishes. Yeah? Not necessarily in hot water. Got to be careful. Whatever. However, you're allowed to wash dishes. Now, person be allowed to if it really bothers them. That they could do. Now the question would be, let's say by the third meal, they want to wash some dishes, but they're really doing it for after Shabbos. That you can't do. That's preparing for after Shabbos. Right? You're going to say, but it really bothers me. Well, too bad. That doesn't change. That halacha doesn't change. Now, certain things, because it bothers the person, maybe it will change. It's possible it could change, depending what it is. But I will ask a fundamental question. Whatever, not the person who asked it, I'll ask a fundamental question in general. What do we care? How many people enjoy, if they've ever been to a real Passover Seder, and they have to eat a significant amount of matzah. How many people really enjoy eating all that matzah in a short amount of time? Probably not too many. Some people say, I love matzah all year round. Very good. Yeah. Most people, I would think, or let's say better, some people probably don't enjoy eating that amount of matzah. Or drinking, that amount of wine. So you don't have to drink wine, you can drink grape juice. Okay. What if it's something you can't change? What if it's something that makes you feel uncomfortable? You think God cares? It makes you feel uncomfortable? You think it matters? In most cases, it probably doesn't matter. Right? God would say, just shut up and eat the matzah. That's what he would say. I'm telling you the right way to do the mitzvah. It makes you feel uncomfortable. Okay. If there's no way around it, you got to do it. Regardless. Right? If there's a way around it, okay. Right? So I'm just pointing out, if you didn't have regular liquid toothpaste, or you didn't have mouthwash, and it makes you feel bad, there's really not much to do. You're stuck. Yeah. So just keep in mind, there are certain things you can't get around. And if you can't get around it, you got to do it anyway. Right? Even if you don't like it. There are things people don't necessarily like. How many people enjoy, in most parts of the world, while I'm on this topic, sitting in a sukkah? Yeah, in Israel, it's easy. No matter how late it comes, weather's beautiful. Sometimes it could be really hot, less hot. Outside of Israel, in most places, it's cold. Could be even snow, some places. Yeah, it's cold. Now, being cold doesn't mean you're exempt from sitting in the sukkah. That's not the point of this. But how many people are so ecstatic going into the sukkah with 3-4 layers on? Now, on the first days of the holiday, and on Shabbos, if possible, 100% you got an obligation to sit in the sukkah. Now, if it's too cold, okay. So you're exempt. Very good. Right? If it's really too cold. Right? I think people use excuses for a lot of things. Definitely use excuses for a lot of things because they say, oh, we're such a weak generation, it's too cold, blah, blah, blah. But how many people are sitting there ecstatic when it's freezing cold? So you could say, it doesn't make me feel comfortable. God says you got to sit in the sukkah, right? 2 nights outside of Israel, you got to eat at least a certain amount of bread. Are you whistling Dixie when it's 5 degrees Celsius? like 35 degrees Fahrenheit, people are going to say it's too cold, right? The question is how cold it has to be. Okay, right? You can say that about any mitzvah. This mitzvah makes me feel uncomfortable. This mitzvah makes me feel uncomfortable. Okay, yeah. Even if a person would say that and there's no way around it, well, guess what? Mason's going to say, you going to do it? Are you going to do it or not? Right? Put up or shut up. Are you going to do it or not? And what's the answer? The answer is you're going to do it. That's the answer. Or you're not. Or a person will say, no, it's too hard. It's just too hard. Okay. So those people won't make the grade. They won't finish. Because there's too many things that bother them. It makes them feel uncomfortable. Who the heck cares? You think God cares makes you feel uncomfortable? Then you got a problem. Then you got to make you feel more comfortable. This isn't avoided. This takes work. Right? There are things that bother us. Okay. Yeah. But to what extent? Is it going to stop a person from keeping Torah mitzvahs? Maybe. Maybe someone say, this is something I can't get over. Okay. But how God would look at that? I'm not going to put on my funny George Burns glasses and my funny mustache. How's he going to look at that? The person's come this far. They've learned and this and that. And certain things make them feel uncomfortable and say, you know what, I'm out. Let's say, this is too much. This is too much. Let's say. I know of a case. I'm not giving my answer here. Right? Family converts or wants to convert. They downsize, move into a Jewish community. And one of the spouses says, I can't do it. I can't go through it. Something happened, whatever it was. They can't do it. So the other spouse says, what do you mean? We've come this far. Our kids are in schools. We downsize, this, that. What do you mean you're not in? How can you not be in now? Regardless of what happened afterward. This person did not convert. Yeah. The question is, at that point, was that person supposed to convert? Because they were not looking for converts. Doesn't really matter. But that person already come so far. They were put in a situation they felt they couldn't handle, let's say. And they decided they didn't want to convert. Now, a case like that could be, I said could be, not saying it is. God can say you had an opportunity to convert, you messed up everything. I don't care what happened to you. You were that close. You were so close. And this is what you do. That person can be liable. Because they could have converted and they didn't. But someone's going to say, but no one had an obligation to convert anyway. You're right. But if God sees through your heart, and God knows what your heart said, you really wanted to do it, and you wussed out, or you wimped out for whatever reason, and God says that's not a good enough reason, you're toast. You're toast. That's the bottom line. Depends how far a person went. So again, I'm not saying God's going to judge it that way. He could. Right? Because the obvious question is, not everyone's made to convert. If not everyone's made to convert, then what? Then God will cut them a lot of slack. Tremendous amount of slack. But if God sees deep down, really should have done it. And he wussed out, in my language, he wimped out, he didn't do it because something bothered them. Then maybe they're liable. Maybe. But at the end of the day, we got to be 100% sure. What I'm doing, is what I'm obligated to do. Right? And what I'm doing, it doesn't matter if I feel uncomfortable or not. I'll give another example. Something happened to me. Yeah, I mentioned the story before. I was, what do you call it? I was in a mourner's house. Relative, woman, hadn't seen in a long time, much older than me. Much, much older than me. Went to give me a hug. I took 2 steps backwards. I heard somebody say, I wouldn't embarrass somebody like that. Well, you're not allowed to touch them. Death penalty. Yeah? You have to give up your life before you do that, even if they're a dried up prune. Still forbidden. Care what anyone says. Forbidden. Yeah? Got a lot of flack for this. Yeah. Heard someone say under their breath, come on, this person's so old. How could you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Now, am I guilty of embarrassing them? What can I do? What in the world could I do? My Rebbe would have said you did the right thing. You did the right thing. You couldn't do anything else. They're going to embarrass their own fault. Right? I heard someone else say, no, I would never embarrass someone like that. I would touch them. What's your problem? Right? That's not what the halacha is. Yeah. Now, does that make me feel comfortable and other people feel uncomfortable? Yes. Is that going to change what I think? Is that going to change what I'll do in the future? Right? So maybe if I was aware of the situation, I know the person was going to do it. Maybe I'd have a little bit different approach. Okay. Yeah. That might make me feel uncomfortable. So if it's hareg al yavor, you got to give up your life more than transgress. Does it care if I feel uncomfortable? Does God care if I feel uncomfortable or not? What's the answer? So everybody says, he doesn't care. That is what the halacha is. Right? So anybody in this process, there are a lot of things you're going to feel uncomfortable about, probably. It's not just going to be one thing. Yeah? The person has to figure out how not to feel uncomfortable or try and get a better understanding of what it is. And if you can't, you got to figure out how to deal with it. Right? But being uncomfortable is not a heter. Does not mean it's permissible for me to do because I feel uncomfortable. Depends what it is. There are ways around certain things. Cleaning dishes on Shabbat, that's one of them. And this would apply. If it really bothers someone, they don't like it, okay. But it's not across the board. Just because the person feels uncomfortable, Again, comes the first day of Sukkot, it's kind of chilly out. I don't like being out in the cold. Guess what? You got to eat a little, you got to eat a certain amount of bread on Sukkot. There's no choice. We're going to say, I don't want to do it. It's too cold. It depends. If it's really too cold, maybe from the first 2 nights outside of Israel, you got to eat bread. I'm not talking about where it's raining. I'm saying, it's very nice out, but it's cold. So if it's a temperature you're not exempt from, but it makes you feel uncomfortable, God's going to say, I don't care. I can one rat's tail what you think. I don't care if you feel uncomfortable. I don't care if it bothers you. God says, shut up and eat the bread in the sukkah. That's what he's going to say. If you're not exempt. If you're exempt, very good. Then you don't, even in that case, do I have to sit there in the pouring rain even in the first night? No. What if the rain lets up 2 hours later, 3 hours later? So a lot of rabbinic authorities will say, you don't have to go back. You don't have to go back out and do it. Others would say, yeah, that's how far it goes. You wake up your whole family to do it. That's the normative halacha? Big question. How far you have to go. But nobody says you have to sit in the sukkah when it's pouring rain. It's freezing with snow. Because then a person's called the chassid shoita. He's called the foolish righteous person. He's not righteous. He's an idiot. Right? He thinks he's getting all the mitzvah of sitting in the sukkah. It's pouring rain. God says, you don't have any seichel? You don't have any understanding? What are you doing? If it's drizzling or whatever, and you're waiting for it to clear up, it's one thing. If it's pouring rain, you go inside. You feel bad, you have to go inside. That's what you do. You feel bad. Right? But to sit there in the soaking rain, then you're a fool. Essentially, you're a fool. Right? So again, it's not what necessarily makes me feel uncomfortable or not. If it's something, again, according to Jewish law, you can get around it, good. If you can't get around it, you got to do it anyway. Right? You got to get a better understanding of what it is and whatever. That's what I would say on that. Somebody asks, you wash your hands during Shabbos. You got an obligation to wash your hands. Right? You got obligations like it every day. Wash your hands in the morning. When you wake up, after you go to the bathroom, before you eat bread. Right? You got many times you have an obligation to wash your hands. Right? You can't wash them in hot water. That's a different issue. Right? So we wash them in cold water. No question. No question. Somebody asks, was there Jewish hospitals during the first, second temple? Sure. Yeah. In other words, how do people get treated? They had doctors. They had places for them to go. Yeah. So that, they didn't look like the hospitals we have today, I'm sure, but, they got to take care of, they definitely got to take care of. right? Either doctor came to them or they went to a place to get healed. Someone asks, "Pikuach nefesh, you can break Shabbos?" Yes, but again, it has to be a clear-cut case of pikuach nefesh, of saving a life, right? We don't necessarily make distinctions between different people, because then we don't want to have more than one Torah. For him, it's pikuach nefesh. For someone else, it's not. Right? I'll give an example that the Mishnah Berurah Chofetz Chaim brings up. Let's say someone has something sentimental. It's not worth that much. Not worth very much in monetary value. Doesn't have a lot of monetary value. But for you, it's worth something. For you, it's worth a lot. Now, what happens? Something like that, for you, you'll never move it. Why will you never move it? It's because you don't want it to break. Right? You don't want it to get damaged. For someone else, it's a hunk of junk. So if it's a hunk of junk, let me move it. Let me get it out of the way. I'm not talking in a place where, you need the space or whatever it is. It's something, whatever it is, you want to move it. Now, what's the issue over here? The issue is for that person, that's a hunk of junk. He says, so move it. What's the big deal? The other person would say, I've never moved it. I don't want it to get damaged. So if they don't want it to get damaged, for them, you can't touch it. For them, it's like a painting on the wall, right? A person got some, they got some sort of, tapestry, whatever it is, a painting, whatever. They have it on their wall. Are they ever going to move it? No. They're never going to move it. It's not there to be moved. It's there to hang on the wall. That's the whole point, right? They got a picture. They don't want to move it. They have no interest to move it. Yeah. So something like that, I can't move, right? I can never move. Why? Sorry, let's say better. I can't move it on Shabbos. Why can't I move it on Shabbos? Because it's not made to be moved. I have no intention to ever move it. Right? Now, a person can say, well, that picture really doesn't speak to me, and I don't like it, whatever. It doesn't matter. You're still not going to move it. It's a picture on the wall. You're not going to move it. Yeah, the issue over here is, as Chofetz Chaim says, if we're going to say for one person, this thing is so important, I would never move it. The other person says a hunk of junk. What's the problem? I got two Torahs here. On the one hand, you're going to say it's muksa, I can never touch it. On the other hand, you say the other person can't touch it and move it. So you really can't have that. Right? So how can you have both ways? Right? So the whole time has the whole thing. The whole thing, how to discuss it, how to go through it. Yeah, any other questions? Yeah, one second here. Someone there says, well, they get that for touching a woman. Right. But again, people say that's crazy. Like, what happens? Give an example. Moshe Feinstein brings this question down. It's so giant for the last generation of America, according to everybody. Don't ask them. You're on the subway. You're on the subway in New York, packed. You're in a packed subway. Yeah. You're in a packed subway. Man brushes up against a woman. Does he transgress? Well, what can he do? He's packed in like a sardine. Total sardine. Yeah. Is that an intimate thing? No, he's packed in like a sardine, period. Packed in. Totally packed in like a sardine. Right? So that's not an intimate thing. Right? So even if you tell me this is not an intimate thing, it's just a little bit of a hug, still forbidden. Right? It's still forbidden. Doesn't matter if it's intimate or not. Doesn't matter. So we said before, if the person's a shriveled up prune, that's irrelevant. Right? It's irrelevant. Some people say, come on, it goes that far, it goes that far. That's how far the halacha goes. What if someone is super old? Is the justification of adjusting the AC? Now you get an 100 to do. Let's say it's too cold for them. It's too cold for them. So better get a non-Jew to do it. If there's no non-Jew, they could get really sick. Then you could do it. And you could turn it up, do it in a different way than you normally would. And you could turn that up if it's considered, if they could, if they're too cold. Let's say if they're too cold and it could lead them to getting sick, then even a Jew could do it. Again, better have a non-Jew do it, but, you could get a Jew to do it. Do people go to the hospital get treated during Shabbos? Good question. Yeah, so again, even though, it's true, they did live in tents, but, they had places to go when they were sick. It wasn't like they had nowhere to go. Again, not, hospitals as we understand it, today, it's certainly not the same. Obviously, demographics are, very, very different, right? If the person was able to, you go to someone who could heal them, right? We don't have the whole thing set up today like we did, or back then have it set up like we do today, right? No question, right? So yeah, it's not the same, right? It's definitely not the same. But obviously, someone who's sick went to a doctor, and usually, either they had medicine or they got medicine from, wherever they got it. You have to remember the whole point of taking medicine on Shabbos is how was medicine made before it was ground up, right? You had these herbs wherever you're from, right? They got grounded up. So people could take it. So that's the whole problem. So we're worried today, right? What's the decree? The decree is you might take these herbs, grind them up, or whatever, right? That's what was done. That's what was done in the time of the tabernacle. Very good. But today, you get things in pill form, right, or liquid, right? So still, there is a decree. But if someone's sick, right, certainly adults got a fever, they can take medicine. I worried, maybe we're going to grind it up. No one's worried about that today. Today that doesn't necessarily apply. But again, that's not the only reason, right? You got to remember as well that, the rabbis gave certain reasons for certain things, but who's to say that is the reason, right? Nobody says it's the reason, right? Now, could it be? Could be, right? Not arguing that. Could be. Well, there could be 150,000 different reasons, right? Could be 150,000 different reasons, right? At the end of the day, even if they gave 10 reasons, doesn't mean any of those reasons are the reason why we do what we do, right? Could be any number of those reasons or not, right? But even if that reason, any of those reasons doesn't apply, it doesn't mean that's the only reason. That's the only reason that was given. Someone here mentions unclean foods defile one spiritually. Yep, that is what the Gemara says. Has a negative effect, right, on the Jewish soul. No question, makes them dulls the spirit. Dulling the spirit means they're apathetic, right? That's what it means. It's like trying to start a Jeep with a 9-volt. Very hard, right? Very, very hard, right? It dulls the spirit, makes them apathetic. Okay. So if it defiles one spiritually, even though it hasn't been proven, I know it will cause cancer, etc. I need to show it defiles the heart. First of all, nobody knows what causes cancer. Right? I think that's pretty clear. Second thing I would say is just because it defiles the heart, that doesn't necessarily mean it defiles the body. Right? Eating something unclean, why do non-Jews, we mentioned before, why do non-Jews not have to keep it? Because the Kli Yakar says they don't have to keep it for one very specific reason. Because it doesn't affect them in a negative way. Because you see all kinds of creepy crawly things, nothing happens to them in a negative way, except, I guess they ate those bats in Wuhan or whatever, right? Maybe that affected them in a negative way. But it's never, so the Kli Yakar says if it doesn't affect them in a negative way, why are they going to keep it? There's no purpose to keep it. Right? Why is there no purpose? Because it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect them spirit. It doesn't affect them, in physically. It doesn't affect them physically. Yeah. When a Jew eats non-kosher, who says it affects them physically per se? It affects their soul. right? It makes the soul apathetic. Now, I would tell you, without, you can take this with a grain of salt, but I guarantee you, a lot of things that we eat that are processed are 100% total unhealthy for you, even if they're kosher. Even if they're kosher, kosher doesn't mean that it's healthy, right? Now, just because it defiles the heart, right, meaning the soul, it has a negative effect what we eat, even though it hasn't been proven by science. I said that 3 times already today, may add a 4th time. Even though science has never proven that, who says it has a physical effect? You'll say, of course, because if it affects the soul, it affects the physical body. It manifests itself that way. Okay. But if non-Jews don't have that issue, it doesn't apply to them, so then there's something else going on here. So you say it affects the Jew differently. Okay, but who says because what you eat that is not kosher, right? A Jew that eats, it's not kosher, very good. I mean, not so good. Well, let's say he eats non-kosher, who says it affects their body? Science doesn't prove it affects them. Not that we care about science, right? But the Gemara says it affects the soul. The Gemara says what it does is it has a negative effect on my spirituality. If it has a negative effect on my spirituality, who says that? Then to do with my physical body, right? It has no effect. You see, by a non-Jew, it has no effect on the body. That's what the Kli Yakar says. It has no effect on their body, because if it doesn't have an effect on the body, why would they do it? There's no effect on them. It's like a placebo. Doesn't do anything. For a Jew, it affects their soul. Because it affects the soul, yeah, there are repercussions with the body, but who says it causes disease? Who says eating something that's not kosher actually causes disease, causes spiritual disease? A lot of things we do can cause spiritual diseases, right? The body corresponds to different mitzvahs, right? You have 248 positive commands, 365 negative commands. How many sinews in the body? Say 248, not bones. Bones including sinews, 248 correspond positively to positive commands. Yeah, very good. So not doing a positive command has a negative effect. That'll have a negative effect. The whole purpose for a man putting on tefillin, right? Tefillin on his head, tefillin on his arm, right? That should affect the mind, should affect the heart. Okay, women don't have that obligation. It's a different issue, right? But these things have an effect, right? They can have effect on the body itself, right? They could have an effect, right? Or sorry, I would say better, they have an effect on the soul, right? It corresponds to these different bones and whatever can have an effect. It certainly have an effect, right? But again, who says what I eat necessarily is going to give me cancer? Because it's not good for me to eat. It's non-kosher, right? Who says physically it's going to manifest itself that way? Spiritually, it can have all kinds of ramifications. Very good. Physically, who says? Right? Who says that has an effect? Cut you off from your people. I mean, physical death. It could be. It could be you die young. Could be your kids die young. Could be both things happen. Right? But normally when we think of being spiritually cut off, it means you're apathetic. It means basically just lacking burial hair. You don't have any connection to Torah mitzvahs, even if you're walking around, yapping away, eating, drinking, this, that. Right? Even though you show you're a physical being, really spiritually you're dead. So spiritually, just waiting to die, essentially. Right? So really, it's spiritual. Right? So really, it's a spiritual death. And spiritually speaking, it's bad. And there are plenty of people out there spiritually dead. Spiritually dead. So we always say the most important question they may ever ask: ketchup, mustard, or relish on my hot dog? That's where they're holding. Right? That's essentially where they're holding. Yeah. They're not interested. It's like trying to start a Jeep with a 9-volt. That means they're spiritually cut off. Does that mean they can't come back to Torah mitzvahs? No. Doesn't mean that. They can definitely come back, but they're at a serious disadvantage. That's why someone coming back to Judaism, the first thing you tell them is keep kosher. cleanse out the system, clean out the body, right, of this garbage. Then you can hear Torah. Well, most people are apathetic. They don't want to hear Torah. They don't hear anything about Torah. They're not interested. Makes sense? They don't have any connection. That's what it means. Right? Now, could it mean that person's going to die? Yes. Very well could mean they're going to die. Yeah. They'll die younger than they should have. Right? It could mean that. It also means they're not connected to God. That means their soul's still there, but they're not directly, they're not connected, so to speak. So that the soul sort of atrophies. And the person just waiting to die. Right? They have no connection. They have no connection to Torah mitzvahs. Right? Essentially. So it means spiritually, the soul's in trouble. Right? In serious trouble. Somebody asks, one second. Can person use antibacterial hand sensitized spray to wash your hands? Yeah. As long as it's a liquid. As long as it comes out like a liquid. If it comes out, how do I know if it's a liquid? Right? Pour it out. Does it have viscosity? Good SAT word. Does it have viscosity? Or does it pour like a drink? If it pours like a drink, you could use it. If it's got viscosity, I got a problem because that's like smearing. So what do? So some people do is before Shabbos, they'll add water to it. So it becomes liquidy. Right? Make it more into a liquid than a paste, so to speak. So that would be okay, right? So if it comes out like that, very good, not a problem. Right? Definitely not a problem because it's more like a liquid. If it's more, what's the word? It's more like a paste, more like you're smearing. That would be forbidden. Why does Torah mention clean animals? Why does it mention clean animals instead of kosher animals? Yeah, what's the answer? Yeah, so unclean, what does it really represent over here? Right. So if we want to be a what do you call it? A holy people, right? So to speak. So unclean, right? It's very bad translation. I mean, tumah means I can't touch it. I can't have anything to do with it, right? So it's kind of, I would say, a mistranslation to call it clean or unclean, but essentially what do I have? Animals that I'm allowed to eat, not allowed to eat. So you could say really they should be kosher, right? What I eat is kosher. That which I eat is not kosher. I think it's a little bit of semantics over here. Really means the same thing. Could have used that language. I don't know. I have to see. If there's a better answer. Somewhere it says, I don't know if it's true. So pure could be, again, I'm not saying this is the reason, but could be that what does pure mean? No defect. Right? It's got to be slaughtered, right? Cleaned according to, ritual slaughter, so to speak. Something that is impure, so to speak, is missing something. or some aspect of it. Right? It's not a question of kosher or non-kosher. The question is, we're talking about perfection. It's got a blemish or not a blemish. Right? Maybe. Right? Maybe a possible answer. But I have to do a little more research on that. Some of the reading Torah is like spiritual eating kosher foods. So they're eating kosher physically really doesn't matter. Okay, right? Because they're not Jewish. Okay. Someone asked, what if one is unable to prepare for Shabbos, i.e. light candles? Then what do? Can't light candles. Can't light candles when Shabbos comes in. And what are you going to do about food? So you cold food. Can't heat anything up. You didn't make anything, right? So what do? So let's say you have challah. If you don't have challah, eat bread. If you don't eat bread, eat something, right? If you don't, if you don't have any bread or challah or wine, so what do? So you make blessings on whatever you have, right? You can't fulfill your obligation to the basic level. So you do what you can do, right? Essentially, you do what you can do. So I mentioned kosher represents not only the animal but also the slaughter. Yeah, ritual slaughter, makes it kosher. Ritually slaughter it, can't eat it. Right? Definitely can't eat it. Right? That is true. Being kosher means there's nothing inside, right? Which essentially you can't eat. Because it means healthy. Sure. Right? You can have, you need to be a chemist over here, to know what the ingredients are and where they come from. Today, someone says kosher, it means it's got some sort of rabbinic supervision on it that allows you to eat it. Kosher means also ritual slaughter, right? As well. Somebody asks, the following likely: a man raises a successful family, generous, well liked, and believes in Hashem, but he's Christian. How can he be considered good? He's an idolater. Death penalty. Right? Now, what the question is, what does it mean he raised a successful family? Right? They're all believe in God? They're all Christians? Right? So yeah, if that's the case, then no, he didn't raise a successful family. He raised a bunch of idolaters. But they could be, mentioned many times. These people could be the nicest people in the world. Right? You can have nice people that go and spit in God's face. Right? So how is that successful? It's not successful. Right? Right? He doesn't, he's got respectful kids. Yeah, I guarantee. Even if they're very nice, even if they're very respectful, does that mean they don't spit in God's face every second of every day? They probably do. So they're not good. Yeah, they might be good in other ways. Are they good in God's eyes? That's the question. Right? And if they're not good in God's eyes, then what do I care? What do I care how nice they are? Yeah, what matter? Right? You get secular Jews, they can be the nicest of people. They desecrate Shabbos, they eat pig, they do all kinds of things, speak Lashon Hara. But everyone loves them. They're very good people, yeah? Good by whose standard? By society standard? What do I get what society says? They're nice people according to society. Very good. So what? Are they good in God's eyes? That's the question. If they're not good in God's eyes, then I don't care what they do. I don't care how nice they are. Doesn't matter. Yeah. He doesn't live, let's say, beyond 10 commandments, eats unclean, helps family financially. So what? He gets cancer 67 and dies. Is this way of Hashem saying, time out, you failed, no further use for you? Well, the average age person dies at 70. Yeah, King David says you get 70 years. Not everyone makes it 70 years. There are a lot of other factors going on. A person can die in their early 40s. Just heard the story of 2 women. My own neighbor died in their early 40s, with big families. Or tell me, the person wasn't keeping Torah mitzvahs. So why do people die young and old? My Rebbe would say they die young and old so people will repent. Because if you're going to tell me you get a certain amount of time to live, they'll all repent later. These things are supposed to make us wake up. Do we understand how the world works? Why people die young and old? No. Do we only understand it according to reincarnation? Maybe. Right? But even reincarnation, we don't know. We don't know what's going on behind closed, We don't know what's going on behind closed doors. We have no idea. We have no idea. So we can't make any statements. Someone dies at 67, someone dies at 92. Right? Or a person's got a relative, they believe in JC, they live to 103. Can you explain that? Only answer is they must have done something in their life to get long life in this world. Because, otherwise the next world they're probably in trouble. Right? Now, can I explain that? No. I don't have an explanation. God runs the world. If he wants to keep a person around longer for whatever reason, it's to their detriment, by the way. Because if they're not keeping Torah mitzvahs, the longer they're alive, the worse it is. Why is it the worse it is? Because they're going to keep transgressing. They're going to, they're in trouble. They're in trouble in the next world. So person says, okay, person was a good person, but not actively for Hashem's purpose. Now, that's the only thing we care about. Person can be nice as pie, help other people, this and that, do certain mitzvahs. Okay. But again, how are they viewed in God's eyes? That's the question. I'm not God here. So people say you can't say. Okay. But if you don't keep Shabbos, you don't keep kosher, as a Jew, a person's into marriage, you're in trouble. No matter how nice you are. Right? Irrelevant. And if a non-Jew could be the nicest person, it'd be no day of Vodazar. What's someone who's no day of Vodazar? Someone who does idolatry. What's the penalty? Murder. You kill them. You kill them. If when you see them in the act, you kill them. Death penalty. So the person can say, but they were the nicest people. So what? It's hard to say about a person's family, but so what? How are they looked at in God's eyes? In God's eyes, I guarantee they're not smelling so well. Right? That's probably the case. Right? Someone who says they're doomed in the afterlife, right? Yep. Because they're Christian, they're doomed. Unless they repent. Right? Unless they repent. It's sad. It's sad because that's what's going to happen to these people. They're going to get obliterated. They can be, being the nicest of people doesn't help. Doesn't help. Maybe they'll get, reward for that mitzvah they did in this world. Very good. So what? They got the reward and that's it. They die like a dog. Nothing happens when they die. Being nice doesn't count. Over here, it's how God sees it, how God views it. Somebody asks, there's a right. Someone here points out it's true. It's contradiction in terms. How can you believe in Hashem and be a Christian, right? It's like going to the mikveh, becoming pure, and you have a dead rat in your hand. Does it help you? No. When you're in the mikveh, does it help you become pure? No. Right? It's contradiction in terms. Can't believe in JC and be a God-fearing person and believe in, you can't. It's a contradiction in terms. Just like Judeo-Christian stuff doesn't exist, right? Right. Somebody asks, not really going to deal with it because a much bigger question here. Always running out of time. Where's that question? What if you believe in Allah? Okay, some people say Allah is idolatry. Right? Most people would say not that way. Most people would probably say that if you believe in if you believe in Allah, you believe in one God, you believe in Hashem. Very good. There's only one problem. Even if that were true, forget about the fundamentalists and what they do, and all the anti-Semitism and murder and all that. Forget all that. Yeah, there's a fundamental problem here, right? There's a fundamental problem. What's the problem? They're making up a new religion. They're making up a new religion. You can't make up a new religion. Even though they believe in one God, it's a new religion, right? It's a false religion, right? So it doesn't matter if they believe in Allah, right? Even though it's all distorted and we can say all the problems with Islam and this and that, right? Which is not the point. Even if they believe in one God, okay, that's better. 100%, that's better than being idolater. I agree. But it's still forbidden. Even though it's not idolatry. It's still forbidden because it's a made-up religion. And once it's a made-up, once it's a made-up religion, it doesn't matter. Right? It's false. Period. Someone says Israel okay, and Israel attacking Israel. Well, we just got, unbelievable. Unbelievable what happened. Attacks from so many different sides. The Americans, the Brits, the Saudis, even got Jordan, for goodness sake. They all knocked down all these things, all these drones and missiles. Well, it's Israel. Knocked them all down. 400 or 500, knocked them all down. That's pretty unbelievable. I mean, where I live, heard a siren in the middle of the night. Heard a lot of booms. Heard a lot of booms, but no siren. Normally, you hear a siren when there's imminent impact. You don't normally hear a siren if it's going to hit, like hit an empty field. But all of a sudden, it was crazy. Hear a boom, 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 boom. I mean, pretty loud, and no siren. So didn't matter. And finally, siren went off. But didn't matter. Everyone, ran into their sealed room. That's an unbelievable miracle. I don't think there's any question. All of them got knocked out. I just saw 5 billion shekels Israel spent on knocking these things down. Okay? You gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah. Knocked every single one of them down. Every single one of them. It's like, they sent 500. I could hear. Some of them they were ready. Okay. Right? Give them credit. They were ready. But it's not about they were ready or not. Obviously, they weren't ready. What happened October 7th? Look what happened. Yeah, even if they were ready over here, we're going to be ready, this and that. Fine. They were prepared. They warned people already. They warned people here. There could be sirens and this and that. Okay. Knock down every single one of them? Every single one of them? That's pretty miraculous. That's pretty miraculous. Right? No question. I mean, you hear that. I mean, if you don't ever experience it, I don't recommend it. Right? This thing is downright scary. Because these missiles can cause havoc, destroy things, destroy buildings, parts of buildings, certainly cars. I mean, whatever. These things are potent. With all these explosives on it. So when you hear it get knocked down, even if there's shrapnel going around or whatever, it's still a huge noise. But like, okay, people were put on alert. But they just sent them from unbelievable directions, and we'll see what the payback's going to be because, not to get into politics, but they're claiming Israel retaliates, they're going to retaliate more. So America's saying don't retaliate. Others probably going to say don't retaliate. They got millions of these things. Drones and missiles. That's what Iran does. Hezbollah's got all of them. You got thousands, hundreds of thousands. Yeah. You don't want to escalate a war. They certainly don't want to escalate a war, but I don't know. They sent 500 drones and missiles. You're not going to react. Like, I don't know, see what's going to be. See what's going to be. But that's an unbelievable thing. I mean, you want to say, oh, that's a coincidence. 500, and they all got knocked down, even by Jordan. Jordan's not our greatest lover over here by any stretch. Yeah, they also knocked them down because they know who the real enemy is. They know who the real enemy is. Yeah. So, what's going to be? They're going to go in there and attack. We'll see. I mean, you ask me, I think they should. If there's any question, I think they should flatten the place like a pancake. But there'd be a whole regional war they don't want. They're still trying to mop up Hamas over here. Right? They don't want that, but, to let it go unscathed. They don't do anything. That's, I don't know, see, so much pressure is put on them. But it's, I don't know, it's crazy. Someone asked before, I just want to see the question. Another question either question got erased, or I just don't see it. 1 second. There was a question here. I don't know why it's not coming up. Let me just see if I find it. If we mentioned that, we should pray they repent. Yeah, but they don't look like they're going to repent. So, God will take care of business. Right? Oh, that was the question. Here it is. Why are non-Jews trying to kill us every now and then? Right? So in short, Esav hates Yaakov. Say because Yaakov tried to steal the blessing, there's that. Right? Esav hates Yaakov. That's forever. That's forever until the Messiah comes. It's never going to change. And part of it is because God wants to use them to get to us to repent. I'll tell you, you hear a siren, you have no idea where these missiles are coming. Right? If you have closer, let's say, to Gaza, you got 15 seconds. 15 seconds. Yeah, okay, so we're further away. And I know these things were coming because it takes a while for it to get from Iran to here. Well, they were ready. Okay. Doesn't matter. You hear these explosions, you have no idea. You have no idea where these things can fall. Even when they get knocked down, shrapnel can fall somewhere. There have been people that have been hurt because they were outside, they didn't get to a shelter, and they got hit by shrapnel, even though it got knocked down. But God gave the Torah on Mount Sinai, right? The word Sinai, Shin Nun Yud or Samach Nun Yud. That's the root of the word. What does Sinai mean? Hatred, right? So we've asked the question, what do you mean hatred? What do you mean hatred over here? God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. Nobody wanted it, right? Gemara says in Avodah Zarah 2b to 3a, God goes to all the nations. Nobody wants it. Okay, so what are they upset about? What in the world are they upset about? They had an opportunity. They didn't want it. That brought hatred to the world. Yeah, that's forever. That doesn't change until the Messiah comes. So had someone tell me, if more people would be Noahites, to be less anti-Semitism. True, there would be, but it won't eradicate it. Further claim they're eradicated. It won't eradicate it. The reason it won't eradicate it is because you still need anti-Semitism before the Messiah comes. It will not get totally eradicated until the Messiah comes. Right? So that's what we're living with. They're giving us a wake-up call. Why do they hate us? Because we're not doing what we're supposed to do. So God uses them to get to us. Right? See what happened on October 7th. The whole year went by. Right? Without getting into politics. The whole year went by of these mass protests all across the country. Locking up traffic left and right, this and that, because of judicial reform. Yeah, and trying to topple the government. Day in and day out. Lot of hatred amongst the Jewish people. This war brought a lot of Jews together from the right to the left. Brought a lot of people together. War to do that. Really disgusting way what happened. Well, think about it. Unlawful hatred. Unlawful hatred. I had someone from the States, I saw a picture they put up. They were one of these demonstrations. This is democracy. I go, do you know what it's all about? Do you really know what this whole thing's about? They have no idea. The left doesn't even have any idea. They say they're going too far, this and that. But everyone agrees you need change. Everybody agrees. They just think we're going to go too far and this and that and, whatever. But a lot of serious hatred. Yeah, serious hatred. And what did that do? That brought about God's anger. Tremendous anger. That's still why the temple has been rebuilt. For exactly that reason. Doesn't matter what they claim, it's unlawful hatred. Yeah. So we're gonna fix that. We have to have, absolute love. That's what we have to have. But there's a serious amount of hatred. They're even talking now about having elections. How could you have elections in the middle of a war? I get it. Netanyahu, they want out. They just want to knock him out, right? And he's in serious trouble. I don't think there's any question. Yeah, is he going to get knocked out? I don't know. People think the left is going to be any better? Come on. They're more dangerous. Much more dangerous. They'll give the Arabs whatever they want. That's much more dangerous. Yeah. But again, we're not going to, not going to get into politics here. But, you see the level of hatred. The level of hatred between Jews. Couldn't that get God ticked off? Sure. Is that the reason? No, it's the reason. It's a pretty good reason, though. I think it's a pretty good reason. Day in and day out, just blasphemous. Jews against other Jews. Lashon Hara fest, left and right and center. That's why the temple hasn't been rebuilt. That's the lesson we got to learn over here. Yeah, and now they're talking about cutting all kinds of money. All money going to yeshivas unless they draft them. Right? This shouldn't even be on the agenda right now. Right? Trying to push it off, but who knows? See what's going to be. Right? It's a crazy time now. No question. This is what's supposed to happen before the Messiah comes. Supposed to be a lot of craziness going on. Yeah. Any other questions? Let me see any other questions here. It could be that's why they attacked, because they saw the Jewish people were divided, right, and very weak. Right? We definitely want them. We want the nations to do tshuva, right? Of course, we want Iran to do tshuva, and if they don't do tshuva, and God just take care of them. God will take care of them. Yeah. It's always better they repent. Sure. Nobody wants war. Nobody wants to go through this. Think about it. This is not an Israeli problem. It's a worldwide problem. That's what, everybody's saying. If we don't take care of business here, they're just going to go all over the place. Do it in America, do it in Europe, do it all over. Right? They got a nip in the butt over here. That's why everyone's involved. And again, see where it goes. So that's where hatred started. It's not going to end. Right? Make no mistake. It's not going to end. Right? Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse, but it's not going to end until the Messiah comes. Once the evil inclination gets destroyed, then it ends. Right? But there's going to be massive destruction before then. As the prophet says, 8 months going to take to bury people in this war. Gog and Magog. 8 months. If it's not nuclear, you know what 8 months is? You're going to be burying people left and right. Eight solitary months. 3/4 of a year. It's insane. How many people are going to die? Right? It's either going to be on the right side or the wrong side. You're on the wrong side, you're in trouble. You're definitely in trouble. Also, Esau's descendants, you got you're right. You got Amalek, you got the mixed multitude. Yeah, mixed multitude ain't helping us over here. Mixed multitude are the ones in power here. Another secular Jewish organization. So the Vilna Gaon holds before the Messiah comes, Erev has to be disposed of. They all have to die out before that happens. Yeah, any other questions here? Again, before the Messiah comes, what's the most important thing we have to work on? Is Emunah. Right? It's our belief and faith in God. That's what we have to work on. That's our obligation. That's our obligation. So that's my Rebbe a number of times. And he told me the same thing. And that is, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Hopefully, listen, everyone repents and everything's good. I'll be playing our banjo, singing Kumbaya. Yeah, everything's great, but it doesn't look like that. Definitely doesn't look like that. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I just every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock. Israel time next week is going to be right before Passover. Not sure I'm going to do it. I might do it. Not sure yet. Just look out for the announcement. I'll put it up. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism on YouTube. There I got videos on the Torah portion of the week, even though I'm very behind. Ethics of Our Fathers, Q&As, Book of Leviticus. You want to send me an email, RabbiChaimKaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCHAIM@gmail.com, whichever the goods. Beginning of the day, middle of the day, depending where you are, or